Hey guys, Zomfox here, and today I'm going to be doing the Week 5 review of the USFL season. So, the Week 5 season, to me, really just reinforced a couple of, now formed stereotypes of these teams. So as you can see from the scores, you had the Panthers lose by 7 to the Bandits, you had the Breakers lose 10 to the Generals, the Stallions put up 30 points in a win against the Stars, and then the Pittsburgh Maulers got their first win of the season against the Houston Gamblers. So I want to talk about that game a little bit just because it's a big deal that the Maulers got their first win. Essentially, and it's going to transition to the next topic. So overall in the game, the Maulers were led by, I believe, Van Lee, their new quarterback, that they decided to play after benching Loletta. And he played decent. He wasn't out of this world, but he wasn't bad. He went 19 for 32, that's 59.4%, which is He had 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Like I said, he was okay. The team's offensively, though, that was pretty much it. That's like literally all they did. But the Gamblers lost the game. The Gamblers lost, and this is why it's pretty funny. The Gamblers lost on a last-second touchdown pass from the Maulers to Bailey Gaither to win the game. So, yeah. There's not really that much to show about the Gamblers' stats. What I am going to show is what I said a second ago. The team is basically stuck in a loop. Their Week 2 matchup, they lost by 5. Their Week 3 matchup, they lost by 1. Their Week 4 matchup, they lost by 7. And then this week, they lost by 1. They are now just like the Michigan Panthers, pretty much, which is who I'm also going to talk about in this, as the Panthers lost by 7 this week, 1 the last week, 4 in Week 2, and 5 in Week 1. Both these teams are 1-4, and every single time they lose within 1 score. That's terrible. And it's not even like, oh, they're losing by like 8 or 9, where it's like you have to get a 2-point or a 3-point. No, they're losing by just 7 or less in every game. So they're not as bad as their record makes them seem to be, but they just can't close out games. The fact that they're both doing this is insane, and it's even funnier when you realize that their first week, the only week the Gamblers won, they won off a last-second play that didn't go the Panthers' way. The only difference seems to be that the Panthers usually mess up their final drive on offense, whereas the Gamblers allow a drive from the other team. But overall, both these teams are 1-4. They're both in like the bottom-ish area of their division, though the Panthers are ahead due to head-to-head record with the Maulers. But they're both that bad, despite the fact that it's not even like they're that bad a team. You know what I mean? Like, they're not getting blown out any game. They're winning or they're losing by just a little bit. So it really hurts to see that you have two teams that don't ever get blown out that are just, like, so bad. But, I mean, yeah. As for the standings through the 5 weeks, I might do this more in a week 5 and a just overall half-season review. But, I mean, the Generals are currently 4-1. They're leading their division by 2 games. Then the Stars are second, and then the Panthers and Maulers are after them. And then the South, the Stallions are top of the division, the Gamblers at the bottom, and the Breakers and Bandits are both 3-2, which is pretty solid for both of them. Overall, the North is still pretty much wide open thanks to the Stars losing. And in the South, it seems it's going to be a battle for second place. But as for the Stallions have won this game. And, I mean, it's a normal game. They started Magoo again for some reason. And then they realized, hey, that's not a good idea. And they benched him. If I'm not mistaken, that's how it went down. But Magoo, I mean, he went 4 for 11. That's pretty bad. 50 yards, that's okay. A touchdown and a pick, that's not good on only 11 attempts. Jamar Smith comes in. Homie goes 17 of 22 for 77 completion percentage, 200 yards, and a touchdown, no interceptions. That's called quality quarterbacking. And then Maribel, he had 110 yards on the ground. Very, very solid work overall by the boys on that team to be undefeated. The Stars, sucks that they lost again for them, because they're now going to be, that would have really solidified their shot at being a legitimate playoff team, like at least, favorites. But only other thing to talk about, Generals beat the Breakers, which in the battle of second best team in the league. And the only thing that was major about this game is that the Generals were able to hold him to 17 points, and that the Generals actually went with one quarterback. DeAndre Johnson played the whole game. He went 14 for 21 with 200 yards, but he did throw a pick, and he had 39 yards. I mean, their running game is still solid, but not what it was the first few weeks of the season. But overall, it was solid. This week was definitely a pretty intriguing week, and especially considering how you had to compete with the NHL and NBA playoffs, that I don't know for sure how many people ended up seeing these games. But for the most part, this was a really solid week of games, and it really has said a lot about a lot of teams. But I will kind of be talking about more later if I do end up deciding to do a 5-week recap. So yeah, this has been ZomFox. If you enjoy this content, want me notified as soon as I upload any videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And as always, have a great night.